So the Sixers have been busy this offseason building a really solid roster that addressed a lot of the needs that were previously huge weaknesses for the team, such as a solidified third option. You now have that in Paul George, a legitimate backup center. You have that in Andre Drummond, and also the need for additional off-ball shooting. But despite all the upgrades we made and how satisfied fans are with the team, I still have one concern that I think deserves some discussion, and I'm going to get into that. But before I do so, I just want to thank you guys for over 100 subscribers. I did not know my most recent video was going to blow up like the way it did. I just want to thank you guys so much for all of the support and all of the discourse in the comments section. I really appreciate it. I want to keep building this community, keep building this channel, and keep talking about the Sixers because I love to do it. And I'm sorry that you have to deal with this less than stellar background of mine. Let's just say that I got into some new living arrangements recently, but it's definitely a goal of mine to improve that, make it a little bit more professional. But at least I got this 2022 City Edition Tyrese Maxey jersey, Spectrum themed. And funny story, someone actually offered me $200 for it. Yes, I was at a Sixers game once, crazy right, eating my overpriced crab fries, and a fellow, he came up to me and was like, I'll buy that jersey from you for $200. And I'm like, man, I appreciate that, but all the memories I'm making with this jersey, watching the Sixers, no matter how many times they make me want to jump out the window, they're priceless. But I don't know where I'm going with this, so I'm just gonna start. Now, a lot of Sixers fans believe that the power forward position and the overall rebounding of the team is the biggest issue with this iteration of the Sixers. And I can't really, be against that because rebounding has been a huge problem for the team for the past 8 billion years now. Whether it was in the playoffs, getting killed by the Knicks and the Heat on the glass, playing, tough, gritty, physical teams, always letting them go on unnecessary runs. It was, really painful to watch at times. But I actually think the rebounding issue in of itself is being a little bit over-dramatized, and I believe so because the Sixers, they added a lot more juice to their offense. You got Caleb Martin now, you got Eric Gordon now, and you especially have Paul George, an actual legitimate third option who can help this team in so many ways. I think with the rebounding, it's really going to help Joel Embiid the most, and he's our starting center. He's going to be playing the most minutes in the playoffs, and he's our biggest guy, and he has shown, I think, although he's not really rebounding, that's not his biggest strength. He has had a lot of seasons where he could really be a demon on the glass. And I believe so that he's going to have a big jump in his rebounding this year because he just does not have to be relied on to score 70 points a night. He does not have to be, Superman every night. He can, tap into a lot more of his skill set as a facilitator and as a, physical rebounder. Obviously, as long as he stays healthy, but I think his rebounding is really going to be improved this year. And let's not also forget that you added Andre Drummond, an actual backup center now, and Kelly and Caleb Martin, although they're not natural power forwards, they're still super athletic and aggressive, and they can get on the glass too. And you also have Guerschon Yabusele, a more traditional power forward that I really want to see actually get some run this season because he's a tough physical player, bruising. And I think he could really thrive within this Sixers system. But so, those are just my reasons why I'm not actually, worrying about the rebounding as much as the next issue that I'm going to talk about. And that issue for me is the starting backcourt and the overall sort of inconsistency and instability within our shooting guard and point guard positions that I think, deserve some attention for the upcoming season. If we take a look at the Sixers depth chart real quick, it's really good. A lot of talented players, possibly the most talented team Joel Embiid has ever had around him. But once you look at the point guard and the shooting guard positions, you sort of see a little bit of funkiness. And I use the term funky because the Sixers for a while now, they've had good players. It's just that their skill sets weren't really optimized in the right way. And a lot of that has to do with the managerial decisions of just who you're bringing in. A lot of that has to do with just the players themselves not necessarily adapting their game. And a lot of it has to do with the coaching as well. You can't really pinpoint it on one factor, but The prime example of that for me is Al Horford. During his time here in Philly, he was just standing around the three-point line. We weren't really utilizing his skill at all just because it just didn't work next to Embiid. The paint was way too clogged. In retrospect, it was just a silly decision to even sign him in the first place. That's a video for another day. But I'm kind of getting the same vibes here, but on a much smaller scale. And maybe this is just sort of a petty issue of mine with the team, because obviously this might be the best team Joel Embiid has ever had. But, for a winning team, I think it requires a lot of stability, a lot of guys who can just fill in the gaps, and a team that just has players whose skill sets are optimized in the best way possible. Like when I think of Kelly Oubre Jr., I don't necessarily think of him as, a shooting guard, because he's a slasher. He's a guy who's going to get to the rim. He's going to be aggressive on defense. He's just going to be a wild card. And if you're expecting Kelly to be your shooting guard, then who's going to be your secondary ball handler? Is that going to be Paul George? Because Paul George, he is a 3-and-D wing, a really good one at that. He's going to chuck a bunch of threes, and he's going to play solid defense and utilize his length. But that raises another question in Tyrese Maxey as your point guard, because he's also a natural bucket getter who knows how to put the ball in that hoop. But he's not necessarily a top facilitator in the league. He's certainly improved a lot from his rookie season and has sort of made himself into more of a combo guard. But to have Tyrese Maxey sort of as your main ball handler when he of himself is a primary, scorer first, it just raises a lot of questions regarding the overall stability and how the team's going to be connected. The starting five is going to be connected. You have Kyle Lowry backing up Maxey too, but he's cooked, to say the least. Like during the playoffs, he was absolutely cooked, more cooked than a piece of bread that was left in the toaster for 5 hours. He had his moments. I think he could definitely serve a role as a backup point guard that can facilitate from time to time, just be a steady, calming presence in the offense, hit those catch and shoot threes. But we just don't really know. He's too much of a question with his age and how long he's going to last as a productive player. Then you look further down the rotation and try to find guys who can possibly fill in that role if Lowry just is not productive anymore. You have Reggie Jackson, who is definitely leagues ahead of Raul Neto or Shake Milton, but we sort of know him to be a scorer, although he has had seasons where he averaged 4 assists a game, 5 assists a game, even 6 assists a game. So whether he's able to, sort of then slot into that facilitator connector role, that has, that's a question that has to be answered throughout the season. And he is 6'2", a little undersized, and not necessarily known for his defense. I don't think we should be depending on Eric Gordon to be a floor general either. He is a scorer first too. He is supposed to just spot up on the three-point line and be ready to catch and shoot on command. Jerry McCain's sort of the same thing. Obviously, he's young. He has plenty of time to develop his game, and maybe he can become a floor general, but I don't think Nick Nurse is even really going to give him much run this season. We've seen that last year with Ricky Council. It just seems like Nick Nurse, on a much less annoying, but nonetheless consistent rate, he's going to be playing the more veteran players. So it's definitely a really interesting aspect for the Sixers to see what they're going to do with the starting lineup. If Nick Nurse is just like, we have Joel Embiid, we have Tyrese Maxey, they're going to demand enough attention from the defense just to open things up, and they're competent enough as passers. Paul George too, even Kyle Lowry. If Maxey and Embiid are just taking up way too much attention from the defense, things will open up naturally. So let's just surround them with a bunch of wings. That's not really the biggest problem in the world. And maybe I am just sort of being petty with the backcourt and whatever, but I just feel like, the Nico Batums of the world, those sort of role players whose primary job, primary skill was to make sure that offense was running smoothly while letting everyone else utilize, what they're best at to the best of their ability, full 100% utilizing what makes them such great basketball players. I think that's super important and something that the team needs to consider and what fans need to sort of look out for throughout the season, because I think the Sixers are also going to be really active in the trade market and see what opportunities arise to upgrade the roster. But maybe it's just not that deep, and we'll have to see what happens when the season starts. I'm so excited for the Sixers this year and what they have to show us. I really need to get a live stream going so we could do like a play-by-play commentary. We could all watch the game together and stuff. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep building this community and so I can keep pumping out content. I appreciate it, you all, for the support. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Music.